This lesson is about writing equations of lines. First thing we need to discuss is the different forms of linear equations. There are three different forms. We have slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. In this one, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. The second one is point-slope form, where you're given a point and the slope and you can fill it right in. And the third one you've seen before whenever we were graphing using intercepts, that's standard form, ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are positive integers. This is the one we're going to put all of the solutions in for this section as well as in WebAssign. Let's go ahead and try some examples. There's going to be a lot of fractions, so we'll work through those together. First thing we need to do is write the equation of the line that has a slope of 3/4 and goes through the point 1, 2. Now we talked about in the last section how you'd actually graph that. It's pretty simple. You start at the point and then make your way up like a stair step to the next one. It would be up 3/4. This time though, I want to write the equation for it. Let's start with y equals mx plus b form. We know an x and a y. So let's go ahead and substitute those in. Y is 2. M here is 3/4. And x is 1. What I'm trying to do is to figure out what that intercept actually is. And so we'll do that using some algebra. 3/4 times 1 is just 3/4. And then to get the b by itself, I'm going to have to subtract 3/4 from both sides. This is where it gets a little messy just because of the fractions. Two minus 3/4, you can think of that as 8/4 minus 3/4. Here I'm just finding a common denominator, so I'll do this on the side just to refresh your memory. 2 is the same thing as 8/4, and I want to subtract off 3/4. That would be 5/4. So we found the b value, and actually we found the equation of the line. It would be y equals 3/4 x plus 5/4. So whatever you find as that b value, you're going to substitute it right back in. Remember, every equation of a line needs an x and a y, so we want to leave those two variables in there. Now the thing is, in WebAssign, it's going to ask you to put everything in standard form. Standard form being this right here, ax plus by equals c. So we're going to do a little bit of a manipulation to get it in that particular form. The first thing we're going to do is get the x on the same side as the y. I'm going to do that by simply subtracting it. It's positive on the right, so it's negative on the left. Another thing I need to do is I don't ever, ever, ever want the number in front of x, which we called a, to be negative. And currently it is. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. In an algebra, it's pretty easy to do. You just make everything opposite. So if I want to make it positive, I just have to make everything else opposite. Okay, and we're almost done. The last thing for standard form is that a, b, and c, those numbers have to be integers, which means they can't be fractions. This one won't be as difficult, though. It just means for every single term, I'm going to multiply by 4. Since you're doing it to everything, it makes it still equivalent. So 4 times 3/4 x is 3x. 4 times y is 4y. And 4 times negative 5/4 is negative 5. And here we have it. These two equations are actually exactly the same if you plot them. They're just in different forms. One is in slope-intercept, the other is in standard. Let's try another one. In this one, we're supposed to write the equation of the line that has a slope of 3/5 and goes through the point 2, -4. So I'm going to start with slope-intercept form, the y equals mx plus b. we have an x, a y, and an m. So let's fill all that information in. -4 equals 3/5 times x plus b. So our goal is to solve for b. Let me go ahead and multiply the fraction out. Remember, for a fraction, we multiply across the top and across the bottom. So this is going to be 6/5. To get the b by itself, I'll subtract 6/5 from both sides. And here again, we have another really complex fraction on the left. -4 minus -6/5. Well, -4, if we get a common denominator, is the same as -20/5. And then I'm subtracting off 6/5 from that. Altogether, that's -26/5. So there I have my equation. Y equals my slope, x minus the intercept, 26/5. This is slope-intercept form. Now let's go ahead and practice putting it in a different form, since you'll have to do that for WebAssign. Remember, for slope standard form, you need it in this form, where the x's and the y's are on the same side. I'm going to go ahead and begin by subtracting 3/5 x, so I'm moving it over to the left. Unfortunately, over here it's negative. And remember, there was that weird little rule that said in standard form, they don't want that coefficient in front of x to be negative. So I'll just multiply everything through by a negative or make everything opposite. Now the 3/5 is positive, the y is negative, and the 26/5 is positive. One last thing to put this in standard form, those numbers in front of the variables have to be integers, and currently I have a lot of fractions. So I'm going to multiply everything through by 5. For the first part, 5 times 3/5 is 3x. 5 times y is 5y. And 5 times 26/5 is just 26. There it is. These two equations are exactly the same, just one is in slope-intercept form and one is in standard form. Let's do one more. This one's going to require the most work, and it's kind of like a worst-case scenario. And that's because this time they gave you a point, and no big deal about that, but they never gave you the slope. That means you're actually going to have to find that yourself on top of all the other stuff that you have to do. So before we even start the problem, let's calculate slope. Here, m would equal y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1, or 1 over -5. So the slope in this problem is -1/5. Now I can begin. Before, it was clear which point to use, which one would be the x and which one would be the y. The good part is both of these points are on the line, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. Actually, I prefer to do 3, 4 just because there's no negatives there. But either one, although the work will look different, the answer is going to be exactly the same. Y equals mx plus b. So positive 4 equals -3/5 plus b. I'm going to have to add 3/5 to both sides to find out what that b is. 4 plus 3/5 is the same as 20/5 plus 3/5, or 23/5. Here I was just getting a common denominator. This is the answer to the problem. Y equals -1/5 x plus 23/5. But that's in slope-intercept form. I want to go ahead and take it a couple steps further and put it in standard form. We need to move the x's to the left. Here, x is negative on the right-hand side. So if I move it to the left, it's going to be positive. No need to change the sign of anything. This is great. When that x is positive, you can go ahead and you can multiply through by any fractions that may exist to get x plus 5y equals 23. It's the standard form of the line. And once again, these are exactly the same thing, just in different forms.